There comes a moment in a man's life when important decisions must be made. For example, should one fight or give up? I believe that nothing could make my wife act the way she did. I had been married to her for 25 years, and we had 3 children. May, our youngest, is my little girl, 18 years old. Mike, our second child, is 20 and serves in the Navy. Jason, our eldest son, is 24, married, and has given me 3 grandchildren. I worked so hard for so many years, providing for my family, just to walk away with nothing. It wasn't just about her betrayal. It was about how she did it. After 27 years together, I suppose she got tired and decided to spice up her life. I'm absolutely certain she thought I was oblivious, a fool who would never suspect she was capable of cheating. I understood her feelings. She was confident I would never hurt her. Maybe I was simply a loving idiot, or perhaps I had just put my trust in the wrong person. My name is Wallace Banks, and my wife is Marin. We are both 45 years old. Some might call us a middle-aged couple, but I don't see it that way. I run 3 miles a day, eat properly, and love my family. Isn't that what a man is supposed to do? Take care of his family? Marin had always been my pillar of support throughout our 25 years of marriage, and she laid the foundation for our life together during the few years we dated before getting married. She was always the one who kept our family together, present for every wedding, hospital visit, and funeral. And after all the obstacles and tragedies we endured, she remained steadfast, like a rock. So why am I sitting here alone in our family home, waiting for the children to come back? Well, here's why. Over the past year, Marin had become rather distant. She didn't leave the house as often as she used to, and she seemed to be lost in thought most of the time. Whenever I asked her what was wrong, she'd simply brush it off or say, "Nothing serious." In the last 3 months, I couldn't ignore her behavior any longer. I kept telling her that we were husband and wife, and that we had always stood by each other. Nothing would ever change that. Then, for the first time in a long while, she smiled. It melted my heart and eased the heavy weight of uncertainty. I began to believe that everything would be fine. Marin then asked me to sit down and not say anything until she finished, and I nodded cheerfully, sitting down as she requested. For the next hour, Marin spoke to me about her feelings. Much of what I heard was new, but I didn't interrupt her. She felt stuck in a rut and was losing her sense of self within the marriage. She wanted time to rediscover herself. She wanted to live on her own for a while, as she put it, to find herself. Marin explained that she had been feeling out of place for the past few years. With our youngest daughter, Macy, heading off to college, Marin felt it was finally time for her to live her own life. Then, she told me that she had already found a decent apartment and would be moving out the day after Macy left for school. I don't clearly remember when Marin finished her long, winding explanation and left the room. It was as if I had blacked out, entering a dull, empty state. The next thing I remember was Macy gently shaking my shoulder, asking with concern what had happened. It was 2 a.m., and she had just returned from a date. When I looked at her, Macy gave me a long, knowing look and asked, "Mom told you, didn't she?" I asked her when she had found out. Macy said that Marin had informed all of them about her plans to leave around 3 months ago. I looked at her in surprise and wondered why she hadn't told me sooner, especially since she knew what her mother was planning. She looked away and whispered that Marin had made her promise not to mention a word. At that moment, I felt not only that my wife had violated my trust, but that my children had deceived me too. They all knew, yet not a single one of them said anything. Much later, I found out they had been hiding something else from me as well. But I had a feeling that sooner or later, all of this would come to light. It didn't take long before I learned the truth. Marin had been having an affair for 3 years with a younger man named James, who was 33. According to her, my wife thought it was something she needed to experience. I didn't need to think about it for long. I decided that neither Marin nor the marriage was worth fighting for. If she wanted a divorce and to leave, I would let her, but not without a price. The price would be the house and my pension. She wanted to leave? Fine. But I wasn't going to hand her the house I had bought for her just because she wanted to move on with her life. And I wasn't going to pay for her deception. So, you sneak around behind my back, decide to leave, and now I'm supposed to pay you for all the years you've been lying to me? Not a chance. That was never going to happen. And just like that, with the stroke of a pen, a 25-year marriage ended. She left, taking everything that belonged to her or anything I allowed her to take. On that final day in court, I wished her well, walked out of the courtroom, and moved on with my life. It took 7 long years before I saw Marin again. The first thing I did after gaining my freedom was to go deep-sea fishing. It turned out to be one of the best decisions I'd ever made. The quiet, serene time spent among the softly whispering blue waves and the lively calls of seagulls was revitalizing. I enjoyed it so much that I sold my old house on land and used the money to buy a new one on the lake. At the same time, I filed the papers for my pension, cashed out my account, and planned my next moves. I had $450,000 in the bank, and with the current interest rate, I would be earning $2,500 a month for the rest of my life. For my new mobile home, I acquired a beautiful 7-meter cabin cruiser, which I expected to use to sail the seas, riding the waves until my dying breath, or at least until I met some long-haired mermaid somewhere. A guy can dream, can't he? As they say, the call of the sea was just what I needed. Life moves fast, and it's been about 7 years now that I've been a free sailor. Weathered by every wind, I was feeling relaxed after just wrapping up another 3-month vacation when I unexpectedly got a call from Macy. She started asking how I was doing and where I'd been. I asked her what was going on and why she needed to know. Her tone seemed like she was fishing for information. Then, Macy stunned me by telling me that Marin needed my help. I questioned my daughter. Why, after all this time, did her mother, who had been off the radar for so long, suddenly need me? Macy then asked if I knew that Marin had given birth to a little daughter. I replied that I didn't know. Then Macy wanted to know if I would sit down and talk to her mother. I firmly answered, no. That's when my daughter, with fury and irritation in her voice, erupted, asking how I could be so callous. In response, I asked her, how would you describe family members who knew for 2 months that their mother was going to leave their father, but never uttered a word about the betrayal? Then I hung up the phone. It kept ringing for the next 10 minutes, but eventually I'd had enough and switched it off. The next morning, I changed my number and started organizing my next voyage. This time, my modest but beautifully cozy boat, especially without any crazy women, was heading toward St. Thomas, and then I'd set sail for Bermuda. After that, well, I'd figure out a new destination for the expedition. The day I was set to cast off, my 2 sons appeared on the dock. Mike and Jason looked frightened, unsure of how to begin, so I invited them on board and offered them a beer. Jason was the first to speak. Dad, we know we were wrong not to tell you about what Mom was planning, but honestly, we didn't think you'd take it so hard for so long. I mean, you were always at work anyway, he grumbled. Then Mike chipped in, offering his profound ideas. Mom was lonely, and well, she made a mistake. Now she needs your help, and you're turning your back on her. I just sat there calmly, looking at them. Jason cleared his throat, glanced at his brother, and asked, so, are you going to say anything? I wanted to make sure they understood my perspective before I set sail. Guys, I don't get it. Your mother cheated on me and then left. We've been divorced for years, and now she's had a child with another man. Am I missing anything? They nodded, albeit grudgingly. So, what does any of this have to do with me? I continued. If you recall, I'm the guy you helped keep in the dark at first, and then completely blindsided. All 3 of you knew what your mother was planning, and you didn't say a word. Now she has problems, but somehow I'm the bad guy? Honestly, I'm surprised you even found me, considering I haven't heard from any of you in 7 years. Although I did catch a picture of the 3 of you with your mom and her new husband in the paper once. It looked like you were celebrating the opening of a new hospital wing. If I remember correctly, You all were shining bright like brand new dollars, and they called you, let me think, yes, the happiest family in town. So, once again, why are you here?" They both sat there, looking unpleasant and unsure of what to say. Jason eventually gathered his composure, cleared his throat again, and added, "Dad, you see, Karen needs a kidney, and Mom wants you to get tested for a match." I responded, "Excuse me? Why would I get tested for a child that has nothing to do with me?" I repeated my question, "Why are you here?" Then Jason and Mike completed their betrayal of me. "Dad," they said, "the thing is, Karen is your daughter. Mom was pregnant before she left you." To say I was surprised by this news would be an understatement. "How old is the child?" I asked, once my eyebrows had returned to their natural position. "She's 7, Jason said. "And when did you find out about this?" I questioned. The brothers exchanged glances again, and this time, Mike revealed, "Mom told us at the same time she told us about her plans to divorce." I couldn't believe that my boys had grown up to be such cowardly morons. I had always taught them to do the right thing, and they had turned out to be such a letdown. Realizing there was nothing more to say and no purpose in continuing the conversation, I stood up, walked to the door, and opened it wide. I nodded toward the exit and gave them a serious look until they understood. Rising from their seats, they hurried off the dock and were gone within a minute. I was making my final preparations to set sail when Marin herself appeared on the dock. I had already weighed anchor and was drawing away from the pier. She hastened her pace, hurried to the edge, and leaped aboard. The boat had drifted about 2 meters from the dock when I killed the engines. I was just about ready to throw her overboard when, suddenly, a small girl appeared on the dock, begging for her mother. I yelled at Marin to get the hell off my boat. In response, she instantly pulled out a pair of shackles as if by magic and hastily shackled herself to the deck cleat, sitting down beside it. "Wallace, I know you hate me right now," Marin implored, gazing toward the girl on the pier. "She needs your help. Karen will die without a kidney. Please don't punish her for what I did. I know you're angry, Wallace, but I also know you're better than this." I looked at Marin and said, "No, I'm not the kind of forgiving person you used to know anymore. Inside, I'm dead, and that's because of you. So no, I'm not going to help you or her. Damn it. I never even knew she existed, and as far as I can tell, you never planned to tell me. So to me, you and our sorry excuse for a family are dead." While she sat there, stooped over, rattling her chains and moaning at the gangway, I removed my axe from its case and approached her. I was just about to slice through the location where she had bound herself when a notion hit me. This could be my second chance to repair what had gone wrong the first time. "Marin, I've changed my mind," I said. "I'll help Karen as much as I can, but it's going to cost you." Marin was so thrilled that I agreed to help Karen that she instantly blurted out, "I'll do anything." I docked the boat again, and Jason came with a key to unlock his mother, who was now excited with glee. Afterward, I immediately called my lawyer to explain my idea, which he was to put into the correct formal form. The next day, my lawyer and I arrived at the hospital. When Marin saw my representative, she started to look a bit anxious. The doctor took a blood sample, disappeared for a time, and then returned with a positive match for me to donate my kidney. Marin was happy until my lawyer explained my terms to her and my older children, who were also present. In order to save Karen, my lawyer said, they had to officially relinquish their parental rights to her. I stood up, addressing the room. "Marin, all the years we were married, I was the one always making sacrifices. Neither you nor the kids ever gave anything up. It was always me. When you wanted a new car, I traded mine in and got you the one you liked. When the kids wanted something or wanted to go somewhere, I was the one who was left out. I missed their childhoods because I was working like a donkey to provide for them. And what did I get in return? Betrayal from all of you," I screamed, pointing toward my entire family gathered against the opposite wall. "And now, Marin, you need my help? Well, It's your turn to sacrifice something. If you love her, let the girl go. Or you can take your chances waiting for another donor. I hadn't even finished when Marin shrieked, "I will never give up my child." My lawyer and I rose, and without saying a word, rushed for the exit. Jason and Mike jumped up, trying to physically stop me. My lawyer informed them in a steely tone that if they so much as laid a finger on me, they'd be spending the next 10 years in prison. The brothers paused for a while, but then Macy jumped in yelling, "How will you sleep at night knowing you're killing our little sister?" I stopped, looked her in the eye, and questioned, "And how do you sleep at night knowing you threw your father away? No guilt? Well, I'll sleep just like that." What happened at the hospital was the beginning of World War III. Over the next few days, they almost hit me with a court order to prevent me from leaving the country. But I started my engine just in time and pulled away from the pier, drifting about 100 meters out, calmly floating on the waves and ignoring the shouting and waving from the dock. A while later, when the boat came back on a speedboat, I revved my own engine and took off. They would have had to chase me up the coast for nearly 400 miles before I'd even think about raising the sails. The officials gave up as we entered international waters. Eventually, I halted approximately 10 kilometers offshore. Once I was inside sail range, I called my lawyer to receive the latest developments from land. He told me that Karen's condition was getting worse and that Marin wanted to talk to. I requested that my lawyer set up a video conference. During the call, Marin began pleading with me again, asking me not to follow through with what I'd stated. I smiled and responded, "This is exactly what you did to me. The three of you conspired and threw me away. So, Marin, if you won't accept my terms, all I have left to say is goodbye." In the end, Marin had no choice but to comply with my requests. On the day I showed up at the hospital, I arrived with representatives from Child Protective Services, just in case. I had also hired 2 retired police officers to guarantee everything went smoothly. No one, save me, was allowed to take Karen out of that hospital. The kidney transplant surgery went smoothly, and on the 3rd day of our stay, Marin entered my hospital room, accompanied by a man. He identified himself as James Paxton, her present husband, the very lover she had left me for. He offered his hand for a greeting, but I disregarded such polite formalities and came straight to the point, asking what this pair wanted from me now. It turned out they were there to tug at my heartstrings again and appeal to my sense of sympathy. The only problem was that I didn't have either anymore. Marin and the kids had successfully severed them. So, her spouse changed tactics and offered me money. This was getting ridiculously amusing. They somehow thought they could buy me off. Naturally, they were in for another disappointment. On December 4th, 2007, Karen and I were discharged from the hospital. Child Protective Services filed charges against Marin for tampering with the guardianship procedure, and her court appearance was set for 3 weeks later. During our release, my security guys escorted us, their hands on their pistol holsters in case something unforeseen happened. Karen and I were bundled into a car and brought straight to my boat. One of the guards boarded first to ensure no one else was inside. Despite all the measures, my instincts told me something was off. So, as soon as we got the all clear, we set sail immediately. As we sailed away from the shore, Karen cried for the first 2 hours until I summoned her below deck. When I opened her cabin, she found every type of Barbie and Bratz doll imaginable, plus the latest and coolest iPod. A little later, Karen begged me to hang on to her phone, sharing a secret with me. Her mother had assured her that she would be able to find Karen if the phone was kept on the top deck. I carefully inspected Karen's phone when she ran off to play with her new dolls. Sure enough, there was some covert tracking software installed on it. This kind of scam was to be expected. Clearly, that's what my instincts had been warning me of. So they wanted to know where we were. Well, I'll help them with that. I placed the phone in a waterproof Ziploc bag, strapped it to a life jacket, and hurled the whole thing overboard. Their small spy device would float off on its own mission while Karen and I, well, We would head toward the coast of Turkey or Greece. Who knows where the wind would carry us? After considerable wandering, we eventually wound up in Ireland, where we settled down. Karen and I had a slow start getting to know each other, but now things are terrific. It's been nearly 10 years, and Karen is ready for college. She aspires to attend Duke University. Recently, Karen wrote to her mom, letting her know she was preparing to come to the U.S. for her education. My daughter has matured into a compassionate and thoughtful young woman. I've already paid for her college, so she's ready to take on the world. I'm a proud father, and I love it. As for me, I'll keep it short. During our years in Ireland, I met a gorgeous red-haired woman with emerald eyes named Taya. We love and admire each other, and life is simply amazing now. A little news concerning mistakes. Jason learned a bit more about treachery when his mom, Maren, and his wife went on a delightful trip to Vegas. Jason's wife came back with no money, but she was 100% pregnant. That reality came to light a little later when the kid was delivered, and the youngster looked remarkably Mexican. So much for what occurs in Vegas stays in Vegas. Liars, all of them. Maren didn't sit idle either. After leaving James Paxton, she rather smartly moved in with his brother. Yep, Maren's always been practical. Well, as the adage goes, there's no accounting for taste. Macy was dumped the night before her wedding when it came out that her fiancé was secretly gay and hadn't wanted to disclose it until his father passed away. Mike, well, he's doing fantastic, I assume. He's one of those men who scrapes gum off walls in subway stations. You've probably seen those hard-working geniuses in the big cities. As for me, I won't lie. I'm pleased life gave me a second opportunity.